Thank you for downloading this in-ear entertainment podcast. You're listening to Shakespeare's Sonnets. Sonnet 22. My glass shall not persuade me I am old, so long as youth and thou are of one date. But when in thee time's furrows I behold, then look I death my days should expiate. For all that beauty that doth cover thee is but the seeming raiment of my heart, which in thy breast doth live as mine in me. How can I then be elder than thou art? Oh, therefore, love, be of thyself so wary as I, not for myself, but for thee will, bearing thy heart, which I keep so chary, as tender nurse her babe from faring ill. Presume not on thy heart when mine is slain, thou gav'st me thine not to give back again. That was Sonnet 22, and it's awful one to read. Oh, blimey. We are going through all of the sonnets. You know this already, I'm sure. I am joined by
Thierry Heles.
Yes, he could do his own today. And that was Sonnet 22. I think it's a horrible sonnet. I don't like it.
I mean, you can see why this one didn't stick.
Yes.
No one can recite this one. I mean, there's a few ones that you know the first couple of lines, but even this, it doesn't flow from the start. My glass shall not persuade me I am old, which is already a line where you go, yeah.
What?
I'm not gonna
yeah. But when in these times furrows I behold, then look, I death my days should expiate. Ugh, it doesn't make sense. Isn't enough punctuation in here.
Especially with words like I've never really heard expiate today. I'm not even. Do people still use that?
It's not in common usage, I have to say. I
could see it being used maybe more in church. And yes. I'm not a church goer, so I wouldn't know.
And actually, this to me, and the reason I started giggling at that at the end is that it has that kind of pattern of a church sermon, that kind of staccato. It seems to fit that kind of idea in my head, and that's why I was giggling to myself, because I don't tend to do churchy things. I like the last two lines. For people who listened last week, we are recording this just before Christmas. And presume not on thy heart when mine is slain, thou gav'st me thine not to give back again. And it just, in my head, suddenly I had, last Christmas I gave you my heart.
See, I had more the zombie apocalypse in my mind.
That just shows
what does that say about us? You think about a Greek who can't say, can't pronounce English very well.
Yes.
And I'm thinking about, I think I've been exposed to too many people who run around preparing for the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, I see. That's not high on my list of things I need to prepare for, I have to say.
Yeah, you always are prepared a little bit. You never know. It could happen.
It couldn't. And I love the prepared in the British sense. Is, well, I've got a couple of sharp knives and a pair of scissors. It's not quite the same as
you need baked beans, because tinned food that keeps for a while. You can live off that. That's always good to have in the cupboard.
Yes, that's true. But you then have to make sure you got a tin opener, and because you wouldn't want to have all the tinned food and then not have a tin opener.
Yeah. I mean, you got to have the essentials. Some tea bags, quite a few tea bags. I mean,
but there's a bit in Red Dwarf, which I know you don't like, in the first couple of series, where they lose power on the ship and they realise that everything they have is powered. Everything, and including the electric tin openers. And so he's really not looking forward to having to saw the lid off of a tin of baked beans again. And it's just this image of someone sawing a baked bean tin in half, I thought was excellent. And then they're trying to, you won't like it, they're trying to fry an egg using a bicycle-powered hairdryer. It's just absolutely brilliant. But yeah,
that sounds quite funny though. Maybe I should give the show another go.
I think maybe what you need to do is skip the first two seasons, because they're very different to the rest of it. We're talking about Red Dwarf on a Shakespeare podcast.
It's fine. We've had quite a few tangents.
This is just more Thierry and Mark talk randomly while sonnets are read out.
That should be the title of the show.
Let's get
We
back to...
might mention Shakespeare, but probably not.
No. Well, yeah, let's go back. You can start on this sonnet. What did you like about this sonnet? Or not like?
Well, I didn't like the rhythm of it, or the staccato style, but it does start off with quite a nice image. I mean, basically looking in a mirror and going, that's not right. Was it, my glass shall not persuade me, I am old. So he's basically almost refusing reality in that. Just the opening line where he goes, yeah, I might look old, but no, that's not actually what's going on.
Yeah, so long as youth and thou are of one date. So it's a change. So it's now, because up until now it's very much been when you die, beauty dies. Was kind of, we've had lines along those lines that kind of mean that. But now he's saying that he's forever young as long as the fair youth is young, which is a completely new angle, which is kind of throwing my head a little bit, I have to admit.
It goes into that what was actually the relationship between the two.
Yeah, you make me feel young again is the kind
that's sort of the feeling you get from those two lines.
Yeah, and that's that kind of you make me feel young again line is kind of always associated, at least in my head, with older man, younger woman, that kind of relationship of the an older man, I'm talking like 50s, 60s, and younger woman, 20s. You know, you're only as young as you feel, and all those crap jokes.
Maybe he's a guy with a midlife crisis.
Yes, yeah. Shakespeare's a midlife crisis. He's got a crush on a young teen boy, and has therefore written a ton of
leaving the family, buying a Harley, and just driving off into the sunset.
Him, and in a sidecar, the fair youth, topless, wind in his hair.
Oh, if that ever gets made into a film, I bet Johnny Depp would play Shakespeare.
Oh God, no! Oh, and Tim Burton would direct it, and it would be awful.
Robert Pattinson as the fair youth.
Oh no!
Yeah,
no.
Directed by Tim Burton. Oh,
just be wrong. So many levels of wrong in that. And we need Benedict Cumberbatch needs to be in there somewhere. He's got that kind of old worldy good looks.
Yeah, he could be the fair youth's dad, maybe. I don't know. It's maybe not old enough for that. Well, at the time they did have children quite young, so it could work.
Yeah. He was disapproving of Shakespeare's interest in his son. That's how that would work.
Standing in the back tooting at Shakespeare.
Tooting? Oh, tutting.
Tutting.
Tooting is just...
It's that will work as well.
This poem apparently doesn't have a lot to say about it. It's got the weird bit at the end. I thought it's got another O in it. I used to quite like those, but now I'm getting fed up with them because I never quite know how to read them.
Too many of them.
Oh, therefore, love, be of thyself so wary as I, not for myself, but for thee will, bearing thy heart, which I will keep so chily, or Charlie, which is kind of keep safe, as tender nurse her babe from faring ill. Or from faring ill, even, which is odd. But it's nurse, not mother. And how does a nurse prevent a child from falling ill? I suppose it goes back to how they thought disease was spread, which is they presumed bad smells were disease.
Which, I mean, is not as stupid as it might sound.
No.
Bad hygiene does lead to disease.
And bad smells.
Yeah.
So linking smells with disease is not totally wrong. But it meant they couldn't eat nice cheese.
Well,
because cheese does smell bad, but it's so nice.
But then they were missing. Did they have sugar yet?
When
did they start bringing that back? Well, it was possibly, but rich people.
Yeah, it might have been just the very, very rich. Because it was used like a spice back then, rather than now when we just bung it in everything.
Even which is why
drinks.
We have such bad teeth nowadays.
Yes.
Despite all our oral hygiene.
He says taking a swig of fizzy drink.
It's Coca-Cola. Other drinks of the same consistency are available.
But yes, the sonnet. We must stay on topic. What? Talk about the sonnet, Thierry. There's not a lot to say.
There's not much. It's complicated to read, but the actual content is. There's really not that much in it.
Yeah, there. For all that beauty that doth cover thee is but seemingly raiment of my heart, which in thy breast doth live as thine in me. I suppose that is a bit of the first clue we've got that maybe the fair youth feels the same way about Shakespeare as he does about him, because it's not just the fair youth lives in his heart; it's his heart's in the fair youth as well. So that suggests, at least to me, a reciprocal relationship.
He's not just stalking a young kid like people in other literatures.
Yeah, or it's that what's it called when you fall in love with your captive?
Stockholm Syndrome.
Stockholm Syndrome by Sonnet 22 has kicked in, and the fair youth now loves Shakespeare. I was about to say Hitler. Blimey.
To me, it sounded a bit like you were going to say Schindler, which
isn't much better.
Same sort of. Well, I mean, Oskar Schindler was a lot nicer than Hitler, but it's still sort of that area that
the scariness.
Time period.
Yeah, so it sounds like there's a bit of reciprocal feeling in this, a bit,
or at least Shakespeare's, or the poet. My brain is shut down. Or at least the poet sees some reciprocal feelings.
Yes. Yeah.
It's very easy. When you are in love, it's very, very easy to see the other person feeling the same way because you see what you want to see.
Yeah, and it could be as innocent as an innocent sort of brushed arm contact, and you see that
basically
as
that the other person didn't even notice. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Oh, so could be reciprocal. Could be Shakespeare becoming creepier.
Well, he has gone on before about like, drunk with love, and that sort of that's an image that's sort of going through the sonnets, not necessarily between the poet and the fair youth, but
in general.
In general, just so maybe it's affecting Shakespeare now. He's just slowly losing his mind, and there's a straitjacket waiting for him somewhere.
I think we've kind of come to the end of this sonnet. I think
it's
in terms of what we can drag
really
out of
having talked about it at all. Yeah, I'm sure there's an academic somewhere just tearing his hair out or her hair out and just going, my God, this is one of the deepest sonnets in the entire series, and they're just talking about crap.
They didn't see the repetition of the letters P, Q, and R in each line.
Oh God. Yeah, no, I think we've established that we're not, despite knowing all those things, because we did creative writing, but we're not going to bore anyone with that.
Yeah, and I don't want to. I suppose the argument is we're trying to show that these are interesting poems, but they're not necessarily all going to be, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? They're not all Sonnet 18. But they are interesting, and they all say something, but don't beat yourself about the head. And they're meant to be enjoyed. And if
no one at the time would have sat down and gone through them and counted the letters, and people just read them and
enjoyed them. And if you don't enjoy a particular sonnet,
he was basically the Dan Brown of the time.
Oh, you've just lost us listeners.
I'm pretty sure they left at the beginning of this episode.
If you've made it to the end of this episode, let us know.
I'm obviously kidding. I mean, Shakespeare has so much more talent than any popular... well, that's why he's still prevailing. No one will read Dan Brown 500 years from now. That's just not going to happen. People don't read him now.
Yeah, I really hope it doesn't happen.
5 years ago.
If I get reincarnated in 500 years' time and there are Dan Brown scholars, I might be very upset.
There was this man who discovered the Da Vinci Code, and it'll count as history by then. Actual fact.
Oh no, wrong. Oh. Anyway, right, you can read this out. Let's you can read us out and not trip up over any words.
You say that. Sonnet 22. My glass shall not persuade me I am old, so long as youth and thou are of one date. But when in thee time's furrows I behold, then look I death my days should expiate. Expiate?
Expiate, I think.
Should expiate. Then look I death my days should expiate. For all that beauty that doth cover thee is but the seemly raiment of my heart, which in thy breast doth live, as thine in me. How can I then be elder than thou art? Oh, therefore, love, be of thyself so wary, as I, not for myself, but for thee will, bearing thy heart, which I will keep so chary, as tender nurse her babe from faring ill. Presume not on thy heart when mine is slain, thou gav'st me thine, not to give back again.
Very good. That was Sonnet 22 from Shakespeare's Sonnets. Thank you for joining us, and we'll be back next time for Sonnet 23. I've been Mark Chatterley.
I have been Thierry Heles.
And we'll see you again. Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to Shakespeare's Sonnets with Mark Chatterley and Thierry Heles. This has been an In-Ear Entertainment podcast. To listen to other podcasts or find out more about In-Ear Entertainment, go to www.inearentertainment.com.